Okay, here's a documentation of some experiments with bolts. Um, I got size 1032 and size 832. 632 I didn't get because just by looking at it, it looked too small, but I actually think 632 can be useful at certain high notes. Certain strings are a little tighter to fit. For example, this works pretty nice, but on the string next to it, the two strings next to it, it wouldn't fit in that space because there's some variability in the distance between the strings. I'd say the range, though, is generally 6 through 10, but these are all 8s and 10s right here. Yeah, so 832 and 1032 size bolts. They're all made of brass. These are the 10s, so they're on the lowest strings. And this is what they sound like. And then this would be the next octave up on a 832 size. Fits pretty well. I actually think it could go to a 6 because you can see the strings stretch just a teeny bit. I like to try to keep them very straight and not stretch them too much because it will keep the notes in tune for longer. So it could go one size smaller actually, I think. But it's snug and it works there. Here's what it sounds the next octave up on B5, or B4. So before that was B3. Before that was B2 and D3. That's B4. Here's B5. That fits perfectly. This might be this one and this one. B4 and B5 fit the best, I would say, in terms of size 8. Here's the next size 8. These are all size 8 here. Notice it rings really well and the bolts don't quite make a huge difference. I like using screws up here because it's just easier to maneuver and it's less stretch on the strings. I found 2 strings that happen to just be further apart naturally anyway, so sometimes that's a good thing to do, is just kind of work with what's given to you, what's naturally how the strings are sitting, especially if it's got tune. So working within the parameters of how the strings naturally leave you with spaces, filling those spaces if possible. But if I wanted to do anything to the second and third strings, these two, I would have to get a smaller bolt for sure. Maybe a 6, maybe even like smaller than that, honestly. The nice thing is screws can, instead of bolts, like a screw can have a thinner start to it, like a tip, more of a tip, so that you can start to angle it and then you could just stop before you twist too far in, so that it is the exact right size and doesn't really push harder than it has to or bend the strings out of alignment more than it has to in order for it to rest securely. So that's one, and here's the last octave. Interesting. Here's the unprepared note, the C, the highest note. Here's prepared note. So it's a slight difference, but not much. I mean, it gets less powerful of a difference. That's unprepared. That's prepared. Versus here. The difference becomes more clear the lower you go. Comparing all of the prepared notes and unprepared notes side by side. And then all the way down here. This is still missing a string, a C sharp. So there you go. These are all the bolts of sizes 8 and 10, 832, 1032 brass bolts going all the way up the register of the instrument. I did not go lower because it just simply would not fit and fall through. So you need bigger screws or bolts or whatever to do anything lower. There you go. That's what it sounds like, and seeing how it evolves and changes as you go higher on the instrument. The same bolt, but just how it affects the strings changes the further up you go. Okay, the comparison here with screws, fishhook screws, is 1 inch. And 1 inch here, and then 1 1/4 inch for these. In centimeters, it's 2.5 and 3.2 centimeters. 2.5 centimeters, 3.2 centimeters for the width. And we'll see which ones work in which registers and compare them. Starting with the larger of the two fishhook screws, 1 1/4 inch, 3.2 centimeters. These are great because they're versatile. They're thicker. The cups are way thicker than the ones I have, which are these. The ones I've been using have a really thin cup. This is a big old thing. It's cool because what it does is you can have a versatility to this. So these are screwed very lightly right now. You can see they move around quite a bit, and that's a similar sound to what I've gotten used to with this. But what's cool is you can really just kind of screw it in more, and it really widens the strings a little bit more there, and that's going to create something really different sounding. So if you listen to this one, that one didn't work as well, but let's see if I can find the right spot for it. Especially the low notes. Notice how it really smooths it out. It's already loosening up as you play it though. So that's loose, and then this is tight. Interesting differences. That's tight, and here it is loose. Big difference in the sound whether you tighten or loosen the 1 1/4 inch fishhook screws or cup hooks, as they are listed as at the hardware store.